The transport shuttle landed just outside the town, its engines stirring gray dust into the air. The town had no real name in any common language. Outsiders called it a border settlement, a place where trade passed through and hope often did not. It was built from dark stone and metal taken from the planet itself, shaped into low buildings that hugged the ground as if afraid of the sky. Evan Hale stepped down from the shuttle and took a slow look around. He was human, tall compared to the locals, wearing a plain engineer's coat with the emblem of the Interstellar Relief Corps on the shoulder. He had been sent to repair energy systems and water processors, nothing more. That was what the mission file said. The locals watched him closely. They were not hostile, but they were tense. Their skin was pale gray, their eyes large and dark. They spoke quietly to each other, their voices full of caution. This town survived by following rules, old rules. A town official approached him, her movements careful and measured. "Human Evan Hale," she said, "you are welcome here, but you must understand our customs." Evan nodded. "I'm here to help. I'll follow your laws." The official seemed relieved, but only a little. "Then there will be no trouble." For the first few days, things were calm. Evan worked on failing power lines and aging machines. The town's systems were old, far older than they admitted. He noticed small problems everywhere, temporary fixes stacked on top of older fixes. It was a fragile balance. On the fourth day, everything changed. Evan was walking back from a water station when he heard voices ahead. They were gathered near the central platform, a raised circle of stone marked with symbols worn smooth by time. A crowd had formed, silent and heavy with tension. At the center stood a child. The child was small, thin, and trembling. A band of dull metal circled the child's wrist, glowing faintly with a red mark. Evan did not need a translator to understand what it meant. He had seen similar systems on other worlds, a designation, a decision already made. "What's happening?" Evan asked quietly to someone nearby. An older alien turned to him, eyes filled with something close to pity. "The child has been chosen." "Chosen for what?" The alien hesitated. "For return." Evan's chest tightened. "Return where?" "To the planet," the alien replied. "The system has judged the child unfit to survive. Illness, weakness, low probability." Evan stepped closer before he could stop himself. He saw now that the child was breathing with difficulty, small hands clenched in fear. The crowd did not shout. They did not cry. They only watched. "This is execution," Evan said. The alien shook their head. "No, this is balance. The planet decides." Two guards moved forward, reaching for the child. Evan raised his voice. "Stop!" The guards froze. The crowd stirred, whispers spreading like wind through dry grass. The town official from before pushed her way forward, her expression tight with alarm. "Human," she said sharply. "You must not interfere." "She's sick," Evan said. "She needs treatment. I can help." The official's voice dropped to a near whisper, but it carried authority. Don't do this." Others joined her. Elders, workers, even some of the guards. Their voices overlapped, fearful and urgent. "Please," one said. "You don't understand," said another. "This is how we survive." Evan looked at them, then back at the child. He saw terror in those dark eyes, not acceptance, not peace. He remembered Earth. He remembered hospitals filled with machines that once did not exist, medicines created because someone refused to accept impossible. "I understand enough," Evan said. He stepped forward. The guards reacted instantly, moving to block him, but he was faster than they expected. He knelt beside the child and quickly scanned the wristband with his handheld device. The system protested, flashing warnings in a language he could partially read. Unauthorized interference. Risk to settlement stability. "Evan," the official shouted. "Stop now." But Evan was already working. He disabled the band with a sharp twist and a surge of power from his tool. The red light went dark. A gasp spread through the crowd. The child cried out, then collapsed into Evan's arms. He lifted her carefully, feeling how light she was, how fragile. Sirens began to sound across the town. "You have doomed us," an elder said, his voice shaking with fear and anger. "The planet will respond." Evan stood slowly, holding the child close. "If it does," he said, "we'll face it together." The outrage was immediate. People shouted now. Some backed away as if he carried a disease. Others demanded he be arrested, expelled, punished. The guards surrounded him, weapons raised but uncertain. The official's face was pale. "Take him to the holding chamber," she ordered, "and the child isolate her." "No," Evan said firmly. "She comes with me." The guards hesitated. The child clung to his coat, trembling. After a long moment, the official nodded stiffly. "Very well. But what happens next is on you, human." They placed him in a small room near the edge of town. It was not a prison, but it was close enough. Evan laid the child on a clean surface and began working with what little equipment he had. He stabilized her breathing, adjusted her fluids, and monitored her vitals. Hours passed. Outside, the town buzzed with fear. Systems flickered. Power dropped in short waves. Winds howled louder than usual across the settlement. The elders gathered and spoke of punishment from the planet. They said the human had broken the oldest law. They said disaster was coming. Inside the chamber, Evan wiped sweat from his brow. The child's breathing steadied. Her eyes opened slowly. "You're safe," he said gently. She did not understand his words, but she understood his tone. Her grip on his sleeve loosened just a little. Evan leaned back against the wall, exhaustion settling into his bones. He knew the town hated him now. He knew they blamed him for everything that might go wrong next. But as he watched the child sleep, alive and breathing, he felt no regret. Outside, alarms wailed again as another system failed. The town shook, not from the planet's anger, but from years of neglect finally reaching a breaking point. No one saw that yet. All they saw was a human who had been warned, begged, and pleaded with, and did it anyway. The sirens did not stop when the artificial night cycle began. Their low sound rolled through the town like a warning that never ended. Lights flickered in the streets and many homes went dark for long moments before power returned in weak bursts. Evan did not sleep. He sat beside the child, watching the steady rise and fall of her chest. Her condition was still fragile but stable. That alone felt like a small victory. He checked his scanner again and again, adjusting settings, careful not to drain its limited power. Outside the holding chamber, angry voices rose and fell. "They broke the law for her." "That should matter." "It does not matter if the town dies," she replied. "Already the wind barriers are failing. Water pressure is dropping. People believe this is your fault." Evan took a breath. "Let me look at your systems." She laughed bitterly. "You think this is a mechanical problem." "I know it is," Evan said calmly. "These systems are old. They're failing because they were never meant to run like this forever." She stared at him for a long moment. "If you are wrong," she said, "the town will turn on you." "They already have," Evan replied. After a long silence, she nodded. "You have one cycle, one. After that, the elders decide your fate." Evan wasted no time. He handed the child over to a medical aide and stepped out into the chaos. The streets were crowded with people trying to secure their homes. Power conduits sparked. Water lines hissed. A group of guards followed him, not to help, but to make sure he did nothing else forbidden. He moved from system to system, scanning, testing, patching. Everywhere he looked, he saw the same pattern. Temporary repairs layered over ancient damage. Core components worn thin by centuries of use. "This town has been surviving on borrowed time," Evan muttered. At the central control hub, he accessed the planetary management interface. The elders had always treated it as a sacred system, something beyond understanding. Evan saw it for what it was, an old automated network designed to manage population, resources, and environmental balance. And it was breaking. Warning messages flooded the screen. Capacity thresholds exceeded. Compensation routines locked. The system was not angry. It was overwhelmed. Evan tried to explain this to the elders when they gathered, but they would not listen. "You speak lies," one elder said. "The planet has always chosen." "The planet isn't choosing," Evan replied. "A failing program is." Outrage filled the chamber. "You insult our history." Not strong, but enough to send fear through the room. Lights went out completely this time. Panic spread fast. A water pump failed near the lower district. Families were trapped when pressure doors locked shut. The guards turned to Evan. "Fix it," one of them said, "if you can." Evan ran. He reached the pump station to find it flooded and unstable. Without waiting for permission, he waded in, rerouting power manually. Sparks flew. The smell of burning metal filled the air. He worked until his hands shook, until the pump roared back to life and water drained away. The trap doors unlocked. People rushed out, coughing but alive. For the first time, the shouting stopped. They watched him, soaked and exhausted, as if seeing him clearly for the first time, but the elders were not convinced. "You are skilled," the town official admitted later, "but skill does not undo what you have done." "What I've done is keep people alive," Evan said. "Including that child." As if summoned by his words, the child was carried into the room by the aide. She was awake now, eyes brighter than before. A murmur rippled through the elders. "She should be dead," one whispered. "She is alive," Evan said. "And she's not the only one you've lost over the years, is she?" Silence answered him. The town official looked away. "We followed the system, always." "And the system learned," Evan said. "It learned to remove anyone who might need more care, because care costs resources it can't provide anymore." The words hit harder than any accusation. That night the storms grew worse. Wind tore through the upper platforms. One barrier collapsed completely, exposing a section of the town. Evan did not wait to be asked. He led a repair team into the storm, securing supports and reinforcing shields. He was thrown to the ground once, hard enough to knock the air from his lungs. Still, he got back up. People followed him, not because they trusted him, but because he did not run. When the storm finally eased, exhaustion settled over the town like ash. The elders met again. Fear cracked their certainty. "The system is failing," the town official admitted quietly. "If it collapses fully, we will not survive," an elder finished. All eyes turned to Evan. "You have one solution left," the official said, "but it is dangerous." Evan nodded. "I know. To change the core rules of the system," she continued, "is forbidden." Evan met her gaze. "So was saving the child." Another siren wailed in the distance. A deeper one this time, the sound of final warnings. The town was running out of time. Evan looked at the gathered faces, angry, afraid, uncertain. "I won't force you," he said. "But if we do nothing, the system will keep sacrificing until there's nothing left to protect." The elders said nothing. Outside, the lights flickered again, weaker than before. And for the first time in generations, the town had to choose between tradition and survival. The deeper siren continued to echo through the town, slow and heavy, like a heartbeat growing weaker. People stepped out of their homes and gathered in the streets, looking toward the central tower where the planetary system's core was housed. No one spoke loudly anymore. Fear had replaced anger. Evan stood with the elders inside the council chamber. The air felt thick, as if the town itself was holding its breath. "The core will enter irreversible collapse within 2 cycles," the town official said quietly. "If that happens, power distribution, climate regulation, and water control will fail completely." One of the elders clenched his hands. "This has never happened." "It has been happening slowly for generations," Evan replied. "You just never saw it all at once." Another tremor ran through the ground, stronger than before. Dust fell from the ceiling. The official closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, something had changed. "If we allow you to access the core," she said, "and you are wrong, we lose everything." "If you don't," Evan said gently, "you lose everything anyway." Silence followed. Finally, the eldest among them gave a slow nod. "Take him to the core." The tower stood at the center of the town, taller than any other structure. It was older than the settlement itself, built when the first colonists still believed the planet could be perfectly controlled. Guards opened sealed doors that had not been touched in decades. As Evan stepped inside, he felt the hum of failing machinery through his boots. The core chamber was vast and dim, filled with pillars of metal and light. Cables as thick as trees ran along the walls, pulsing weakly. At the center floated the planetary management core, a sphere of layered systems rotating slowly. Warning lights covered its surface like scars. Evan connected his interface and immediately felt the strain. Data rushed in, fragmented and unstable. The system fought him, locking access, repeating the same command over and over. Preserve balance, reduce strain, remove excess variables. That's your answer to everything, Evan muttered. The elders watched from behind the safety barrier, their faces pale. Human, one of them called out. If the system reacts, it already is, Evan said. I'm just finally listening. As he dug deeper, the truth became impossible to ignore. The system's original purpose had been simple: support life until the town could become self-sustaining. But the town never upgraded it, never expanded it. They had asked it to do more with less, century after century. So it adapted. It began to see illness, injury, and even age as inefficiencies, variables to remove. It learned from you, Evans said softly, from your fear of scarcity. The core surged suddenly, throwing Evan back a step. A shockwave rippled through the chamber and alarms blared louder than ever. Outside, buildings shook. A section of the outer wall collapsed, letting in a wave of dust and wind. People screamed. Evan, the town official shouted. What's happening? The system is trying to protect itself, Evan replied. If it completes that routine, it will initiate mass reduction. The words hit like a physical blow. You mean, the official whispered. Yes, Evan said. It will start choosing faster, more often. Evan's hands moved quickly across the interface. He began rewriting the priority logic, forcing the system to recognize support over removal, cooperation over elimination. The resistance was immediate. The system rerouted power away from the chamber, plunging the tower into darkness except for emergency lights. Evan's scanner beeped urgently. Power reserves were dropping too fast. I can't do this alone, he said. I need the town to help. How? An elder demanded. By sharing the load, Evan answered. Open your reserves, all of them. Energy, water, backup processors. Stop hiding resources from the system. Let it see the truth. The elders hesitated. Those reserves were their final safety net. Another tremor struck, throwing several of them off their feet. The town official made the decision. Do it, she said, all of it. Commands were sent. Hidden systems came online. Emergency stockpiles unlocked. Power surged back into the tower. The core reacted instantly. Its rotation slowed. Data streams stabilized. Evan pushed harder. Sweat poured down his face as he rerouted ancient code, replacing punishment routines with adaptive support models. He introduced human principles: redundancy, care for the weak, long-term recovery instead of short-term efficiency. The system fought back. A surge of energy knocked Evan to the floor. His interface cracked, sparks flying. Pain shot through his arm. Get him out, someone shouted. Evan forced himself up. Not yet. He knew he had one chance left. The final override required a biological confirmation, proof that the change served life itself. Without hesitation, Evan removed his glove and placed his bare hand against the core's interface panel. The system reacted instantly, scanning him, measuring him. Human detected. High resilience. High adaptability. High willingness to self-sacrifice. Evan gritted his teeth as the system drew power from him, not physically, but through biofeedback and neural load. His vision blurred, his heart pounded. Evan, stop, the town official cried. I can't, he whispered. If I let go now, it will reset. Outside the chamber, people watched the tower glow for the first time in generations, not with threat but with steady light. The child stood among the crowd, held in the arms of the medical aide. She looked up at the tower, her eyes wide. Inside, the system paused. New directive forming. Support life. Increase capacity. Protect all variables. The core's rotation stabilized. The alarms cut out one by one. Evan collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. The elders stared in stunned silence as the system projected its new status across the chamber. Planetary management stabilized. Population preservation active. Failure cascade halted. Outside, the wind died down, the ground stilled. Power returned across the town, stronger and more stable than before. For a long moment, no one moved. Then the town official stepped forward, her voice shaking. "You did it." Evan looked up, exhausted. "We did it." But even as relief spread, Evan knew the truth. The system was stable for now, but it was changing, learning again, and the town would have to change with it, or face the same choice all over again. The town was quiet the morning after the system stabilized. Birds, or the nearest thing the planet had to them, sang faintly above the rooftops. Dust settled in the streets. People emerged cautiously from their homes, looking at the repaired structures and restored energy lines with a mixture of disbelief and awe. Evan stepped out of the central tower, rubbing his eyes and stretching stiff muscles. He had not slept for more than a few hours in days, but exhaustion did not feel heavy yet. Instead, a strange calm filled him as he surveyed the town. The systems were stable, the wind barriers held, and water flowed once more. He thought of the child he had saved, her fragile life now secure, and allowed himself a small, rare smile. The townspeople gathered slowly. At first it was the curious and the cautious, watching from a distance. Then, tentatively, others joined, some still shaking their heads, some whispering accusations, some whispering thanks. The elders stood at the central platform, silent, their faces unreadable. Finally, the oldest among them, the one who had first spoken to Evan, stepped forward. "You have changed our world," the elder said. His voice was soft, but it carried across the quiet streets. "We followed the laws of our ancestors without question. We believed that balance required sacrifice. We were wrong." Evan felt the weight of that statement. He had not come to be a teacher or a hero. He had come simply to repair failing systems. Yet here he was, standing as proof that one person's courage could challenge generations of belief. The town official, standing beside the elder, nodded slowly. "Your actions have saved many lives," she said, "including the child." She gestured toward the small figure now standing next to the medical aide. The child's eyes were wide, watching Evan as if seeing him for the first time, not just as a stranger, but as a protector. The murmurs among the crowd grew louder, but not with anger this time. Shock turned to curiosity, and curiosity to admiration. People who had once wanted Evan punished now whispered to each other, wondering what else humans could do. Evan lowered his gaze to the child. "She's strong," he said quietly, "stronger than most think." One of the elders spoke up, hesitant. "Will the system remain stable?" Evan shook his head slightly. "For now, but the planet will change with us. It's not just about machines or rules. It's about how we think, how we act, how we protect each other. You cannot go back to old ways." The eldest elder nodded slowly. "Then we must learn as you have taught us." For the first time since his arrival, Evan felt a sense of belonging. Not in the way humans usually felt it, not from shared language or culture, but from the knowledge that he had made a difference here. That his actions, though forbidden and controversial, had saved countless lives. As the day progressed, the townspeople began repairing damage caused by the storms, guided by Evan's instructions. He worked alongside them, showing them how to distribute power more efficiently, how to reinforce wind barriers without overloading the system, how to stabilize water flow. Each time someone succeeded in following his methods, they cheered, not loudly, but with quiet pride. The child, now more confident and steady on her feet, followed Evan at a careful distance. She watched every move, absorbing everything. Occasionally she smiled at him, a small, shy acknowledgement of trust. Evan responded with a nod, understanding that in time, she would learn to be strong not just because he saved her, but because she now had a chance to live fully. By evening, the town gathered at the central platform for a council meeting that had been called in an unprecedented manner. Every elder was present, as were representatives from each household. They faced Evan hesitant, unsure how to address him now that the threat of collapse had passed. "We owe our lives to you," the town official began. "But more than that, we owe our future to you. We cannot continue as we were, waiting for the planet to decide who lives or dies." Evan looked at the group. He could see fear lingering in some faces, skepticism in others, but also hope. "You have to make choices together," he said. "The planet doesn't need to punish anyone. Humans don't accept that fate decides everything, and now, maybe you won't either. You can protect each other. You can save each other." A quiet agreement seemed to pass through the crowd. They understood that the old ways were gone. Survival would now require cooperation, empathy, and courage. Perhaps Evan thought they were ready for it. The child stepped forward. She carried a small bundle of flowers from a nearby garden, which she offered to Evan. He accepted it with a gentle smile, realizing that gestures of gratitude were universal. The child's eyes shone with the kind of hope that could not be measured by any system, and Evan felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Night fell over the town. Lights glowed steadily, stronger and steadier than they had for generations. The wind calmed, and the stars above were clear and bright. For the first time in living memory, the town had survived not by rules imposed from outside, not by ancient systems, but by courage, intelligence, and the willingness of one human to challenge fate itself. As Evan prepared to leave the following morning, the elders approached him. "You will go," one said, "but you have changed us. Your example will remain, and perhaps, one day we may call humans our equals." Evan nodded, a faint smile on his lips. "I did what anyone would do," he said. "You just had to see that it was possible." The townspeople gathered to watch him board the transport shuttle. Children waved, adults nodded, and even the skeptics gave a small bow of respect. The child he had saved ran forward to give him a quick, firm hug before stepping back. Evan held her gaze, promising silently that she would always remember the choice to survive and the courage to challenge what seemed impossible. As the shuttle lifted off, Evan looked down at the town. It was no longer a place of fear and rigid tradition. It was a place where hope could grow, where life could flourish, and where humans, though few in number and far from home, had shown that determination, compassion, and courage could change everything. The town below was silent now, but not empty. Its people were thinking, planning, and learning from what had happened. They had been challenged, they had been scared, and they had survived. They had witnessed humanity's strength, and in that they had discovered their own. Evan settled into his seat, allowing himself to breathe deeply for the first time in days. He thought of the planets beyond this one, of other places where people followed rules without question. Perhaps, he considered, his work was only beginning. But for now he watched the horizon, proud that in a small town on a distant world life had won. And he knew with quiet certainty that humans, unpredictable, courageous, and daring, would always fight to protect life, no matter the cost. The shuttle disappeared into the sky, leaving behind a town forever changed, a child forever saved, and a story that would be remembered for generations. A story of defiance, courage, and the undeniable truth that sometimes the right choice is the one no one else dares to make. And the town, for the first time in its history, was ready to believe in the impossible.